We will, unfortunately, tonight's our invitation will have a moment of silence because of several deaths in our community. Since the last council meeting, announcements, you all received a copy of the announcements, pledge to the flag, ceremonial matters. Will somebody be here from the payroll? We have the minutes. Does anyone have any questions? Have the minutes been corrected to everyone's satisfaction?
Yeah, I'm gonna postpone this one, right? We need to decide if we're gonna do action or not.
Okay. We have no invited guests tonight. Ms. Ayers, I saw Singer is here to give us a report from the Board of Appeals, and then we have Ms. Mackerel. And she'll be here to give us a report. Personnel tourism and trade, and then Mr. Sanders, you have a report for us.
I've got a couple of things. Our planning and zoning consultant, Megan Will, has, I believe, received information from both the county and the applicants as far as in helping to compile her report to the mayor and council and the planning commission. And she's going to be working on that, and I'd really like to have a work session, a 3-and-3 work session with Ms. Will the week of the 8th of September.
I believe that the 3-and-3 work sessions are in violation of the new Open Meetings Act, so I won't participate in the 3-and-3 work sessions. We had this issue before. I'm happy to call a special call meeting, a special call work session, but I don't think we could do the 3-and-3 under the new Open Meetings Act.
That's up to you and Mr. Powell and the council. I would just like to have a time that week where Megan can come in and give just an overview of where she is and where you guys have the ability to ask some questions.
Mr. Powell, what is the
So
issue?
the definition of a meeting, it requires the presence of a quorum. So with you guys, that's the mayor and 3 council members. So, and
But it goes on to say that any meeting that's held and trying to not establish a quorum, which is the whole purpose of the 3-and-3, to have a meeting without having a quorum, is a violation, so that.
but I think, obviously there's been no court ruling on that, but there probably will be pretty soon. I think the
There's
attorney
a case is
general,
actually up there right now, so.
I think the attorney general, in the Braves Stadium case, found that their action was not a meeting. It didn't violate those meetings. What they did exactly what y'all are describing. It's separated a group smaller than the quorum and had meetings. So
Is there any problem with having a special call meeting?
there is no problem with a special call meeting.
It's no brainer. I think we've had enough time in court.
It is good on those issues to have consensus, and when there's not, particularly when it's controversial, this one is. And that's my suggestion, is that you do it. It's harder to have for free communication than to ask questions because it puts you in the spotlight. But that is a concern that I have when you don't have unanimity among your own group. My personal opinion is that those types of meetings where you don't have a quorum present are not going to be found to be meetings under the Open Meetings Act. And it will give people an opportunity to gather and do investigations without tripping the Open Meetings requirements.
But if you want to have a called meeting, and you look at your schedules for the 8th, obviously we have a meeting. The 9th and 10th, or 10th, if you look at your schedule and let me know something, or Karen, so we can let Megan know and be working for
September?
September, correct.
What else?
You want some
Also-
options now, or you want us to email?
You can just email and we'll let Karen sort through that.
Okay, are we gonna try, Mayor, are we gonna try to do something in the evening or during the day, or?
I think it would be my preference to do something during the evening if we were gonna have it as a special call
The other thing is, because of the likelihood of a large group of people for both planning commission meeting on September the 23rd and our 2 meetings, well, that's another one of my questions, our October meetings. I've contacted First Methodist and going to be meeting with them about their gym where they hold their contemporary service. It will hold 900 people. So we'll look at some options to where we can accommodate everyone.
Along that line, let me ask, my concern about having, it's not a concern, it's just that I don't know how much you get done, because you could bet if they announce that meeting, that we're gonna have 600 or 700 people on that meeting on, or September 9th or 10th also. I mean, we need to know that's gonna happen. So I don't know, is that, if we do that, does that give us the information that we need in the manner in which we need to get it?
It's not a meeting, it's a work session, it's a special called work session, so the public will have an opportunity to attend and listen to our discussion, but there won't be an opportunity for comment at that special call meeting.
Just consideration.
But that raises the question, normally, we waive first readings. On something like this, is it going to be SOP, where you waive the first reading, there's no reason for the crowd to come? Or is that going to be opened up at that time?
Even if we have a first reading, it's merely reading the variances in the application into the record, there's still not anything for the public to comment on. I mean, even if we have a first reading, it's just reading what the application is, it's not
Yeah,
a public hearing.
I don't think we should vary our standard procedures, just because this is large and controversial.
So
doesn't
maybe
mean
for that
it's-
first meeting in October, we don't need a larger.
I would suggest people still may attend, and what we've done in the past is we've opened up the community room, and Mark Joseph has provided some speakers, so we can have some overflow in the community room, but we won't necessarily need a podium. I mean, people can still make comments during public comment, but I don't think we'll need a podium as far as the first reading is concerned.
Okay. That's what I wanted to just bring out. Thank you.
Anything else?
That's the only thing.
We have nothing on the consent agenda, we have no public hearing. Under new business, we have, I asked that there be consideration and action on the motion to rescind the approval of RC 1402, that was the property in between the drugstore and the church at the last meeting. I've asked for council to reconsider their motion. Any questions or comments on that?
Where did that come from? I haven't received any, contact from anybody.
Any council member can put it on there, and I've put it on there. I'm asking council to reconsider. I did speak to several church members after the meeting. They were congregated outside, and I know they were very upset, and I'm asking y'all to reconsider. I think this is something new. We allow the most equivalent to no buffer with a landscape buffer, and this is something new that we really haven't followed in standards here in the city of Snellville. Other questions or comments? D is motion to approve the recommendations for phase 2A.
An updated, let's pass that out to you. An updated agenda summary where Lisa and myself had the opportunity to review the bids. And you can see there is a bid tally, bid result sheet attached. Where Vertical Earth was the low bidder at 2,386, Sports Turf 2,526, Triscapes 2.6, and then Astra over $3 million. In reviewing the Vertical Earth bid submittal, in my mind and in Lisa's mind, it was non-responsive. They ignored several of the requests within the document. Very specifically, section 11, where they did not provide specific information. We have followed up or attempted to follow up with them over the course of the last week and have been unsuccessful in receiving the documentation, really any documentation. So it's our recommendation that we go to the lowest qualified bidder which is Sports Turf Company Incorporated, who is more than qualified, provided documentation beyond anything that we could have ever asked for. Excellent references, but the amount of their bid was $2,526,141. And they even put some things in the bid which exceeded some of the design. As I said, an excellent company, and our recommendation is that you approve the Sports Turf Company, Inc. as the lowest qualified bidder. And I'm not sure if Mr. Powell needs more legal review. If he needs more legal review, I'd ask for that, and we just approve the mayor to sign the contract if you so choose to approve it.
What was the amount we had budgeted for, and I misspoke earlier, I said phase 2A, this is phase 2B, but what is the amount we have budgeted for this?
There is approximately $2.3 million left in the 09 and 05 rec. About $250,000 would have to come out of the 2014 splost receipts.
And how much in 2014 did we have allocated to parks?
Over $1 million.
Did you mean 200,000, Butch?
What's that?
You said 2 million? 200, oh.
Yeah, it's going to be, it's going to take that extra $250,000 to meet this.
And that'll come out of the 2014 spot.
Correct.
Additional questions?
And in the 09 SPOS, there was
2
2
million.
million, 2.
And the information that's missing, Butch, was prior experience in the department.
Both subcontractor, a complete subcontractor list, prior experience, and prior experience with projects such as this.
Other questions?
And is that a maximum price, Butch?
That is the contract price. That's the contract we'd enter into.
Okay.
The 2,526,141.
How long will this construction take?
Would we say 6 months, Lisa?
Yes. And so when would we start?
As soon as you sign the paper?
As soon as possible. They're ready. I mean, this is a terrific contract.
So we're not gonna run into Snellville days or anything like that?
I hope that we can make spring softball. We'll see.
That then brings us to our work session agenda. Mr. Powell, update on 2014, Mr. Rico.
It is in my office, it is a nuisance complaint. It was one that came before this body for a rezoning action in 2013. So that rezoning action was approved for an entity, Lifegate International, Pastor Dwight E. Payment. We were granted an order to remediate the nuisance, which is still in place. And so we have the authority to spend money and go attach it as a lien to that piece of property and fix it. To my knowledge, the only thing that was done with regard to the nuisance action was the fence was repaired in the back to secure a swimming pool so that it wasn't accessible. It collapsed. There is, in my file, there is a lot of communication with John Davis and the church about getting approved for a short sale of the property, and closing was set, and the lawyers were ready to go, and so I think it's been off radar screen because everybody thought that the church was closing, the zoning was approved, and so there's not a lot done. The normal step, the normal next step with this is you'll see in the next one that we're looking at, is we send a crew back out to assess what needs to be done to put it into a remediated condition, clean up, fix fences, remove debris, seal building. and
Perhaps fill up this one with pool?
Fill it up sometimes during the bout, just depends on what those recommendations are. And then it comes back to you for approval of bids is what, y'all say it's okay to spend those resources. They get attached as liens that go with the year of attachments ad valorem taxes. So pretty high probability of getting reimbursed for this money, but it'll take a while.
They're currently about $55,000 in arrears on taxes as a county, which is inclusive of the city stuff.
Right. The good thing is that the property itself is probably going to exceed that value no matter what happens, and we get paid first. So,
Who owns it now, bank?
no, the company, now there is a bank, the Ghost in the background, which is sometimes common. And so there is a lender, probably the lender is in charge of the property, but to my knowledge, it hadn't been foreclosed last time we did title work on it, so.
So did the church ever purchase the property?
No, well, I haven't searched title since we originally filed the liens, and our liens are in place regardless of who buys it, so I haven't been spending any more money doing any follow-up, so I say that, but.
Do you know after the rezoning, did the church ever take any?
We couldn't agree on a number.
Okay, so the church hasn't done any, how does it done anything to the property?
No, that basically, their CUP is probably null and void at this point too, because they haven't occupied the building.
Well, I would say whatever we need to do to move forward, because it's gaining more nuisance tests, because there's a lot more furniture dropped over there. It's getting really ugly behind there, so.
We do have some information on emails of the lender because of the communications with the church, so it's normally in their best interest to step up and do it themselves, because when we bid it, sometimes that's not the least expensive method of doing this kind of work, and so they will sometimes respond to that.
Whatever we can do to push the button, because it's beginning to be really hazardous.
Planning department normally sends an inspector out next step, and I think we can have that probably back to you for the next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
City of Lawrenceville's use of the mobile stage, Conway?
This is, I believe they used it last year. This is just when everyone knows that they do want to use it again. I'm not sure which event it is, but they're similar use.
The Rock and Ribs.
Rock the Ribs. And it'll be used, under the same conditions that it was last year.
So we need to put that on our agenda to approve that
You'll
contract.
have the lease next meeting. What I would like to do is have $100 maintenance fee.
Actually, a lot of money too.
What's that? It is, the stage isn't getting any newer, and I think that's a fair amount. It doesn't hurt anybody, but we can put a little maintenance pot together.
They may raise the price of our compost, Tom,
Not if Tony doesn't know about it.
Probably will now.
As long as we were.
1632 Forest Road and 2562 Marigold Road, Councilman Howard.
These two properties, I'm gonna let Tony really give the lion's share of the information here, but they're two properties that are empty houses in the city, and basically they're just continuing to sit there and continue to be what I believe to be a hazard, and continue to use city resources to maintain and keep up and so on and so forth. So, Mr. Powell, if you would.
The one that I know the most about is the Forest Road property, and as y'all know, that cannot be occupied. It really needs to be demolished as soon as possible. There's not a way to transfer that as a residence without either making substantial changes in condition that would fix a significant water problem, probably cost more than the house is worth to do. But without some tremendous remediation effort there, it's been demonstrated that we can't execute land. You know, there are things that can be done with just raw land that has some unique exposure like that does. The adjacent property owners may have an interest, but it's.
Well, that's what I was gonna say, is that potentially, you know, the next one over would like an empty lot next to them.
Right.
On either side, or maybe even behind, so. What do we need to do, again, try to eliminate that as being,
You know, but in both instances, the maintenance of them becomes really problematic from a liability standpoint. They're unoccupied, they are, you know, subject for people getting in them even though we don't allow that to occur. They need to be demolished. I mean, that's,
So we have to dig that out, that out the demolition?
you do, it has to be built.
Trying to do it?
And 1632 Farge Road, that's not actually in the city, right? That one's in the county, but we,
That's right.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where's Marigold?
and Marigold is next to the Briscoe Park and the library. Right here, as you pull in.
The solar heaters under the roof.
It's, the one
When
right
you
there.
come up Marigold, it's on the right.
Yeah, and
It's
I'm not
empty.
really familiar with how we acquired that property or anything, so
Well,
really,
it's within the park, it's on park property. It was occupied when I first got here, 12 years ago, and then I guess we just didn't renew the rental or something.
and didn't we get a bid to demolish that at one point in time?
Not Marigold. We did Governor's Law, which
Oh, we did the park.
maybe before my time. But that is something, we met with Robbie Bryant from HDR today to try to push forward our master plan update at Briscoe. I'd like all of you to put this date down, October the 7th at 7 p.m. It's a Tuesday. That will be the kickoff meeting for the master plan update. This house, surely, if it's not gone by then, it needs to be part of that discussion. I'm sure it would be unanimous that it needs to be done. You know, if you want us to put bids out on that, have a contractor on site, we may get a heck of a bid from the contractor.
Where's that meeting gonna be held?
We need to have it at Briscoe.
It'll be at the office,
October 7th, 2 o'clock.
7 o'clock.
7
We're gonna
October
promote it.
7th at 7 o'clock.
We're gonna talk to local HOAs. We're gonna get a good group out to talk about the future of Briscoe, because when you think about it, this will finish the park. I mean, we'll be more or less done when this plan gets put together and gets completed, unless we add property to it.
I was about to say, then we'll be ready to redo it.
So, put that down, and this house will surely be a part of that, because that's valuable property that we need right
And I noticed we added some parking over there, just
The old
adjacent to
recycle.
that, the old
Yeah, the
recycle
old recycle.
piece of land right there. So, yeah, I mean, that's just two things that's on the list that we need to go ahead and handle, get off our
Can we
plate.
just push that over to recycling?
I wish.
But
You want to get
that's-
prices?
That would be
You want us to put a
construction
bid out?
debris.
Why don't we lock that for
See, came back to bite you, didn't it?
But
Why
I
don't
think
we
you
go
need the one on
Talk
Car
to the,
Road.
well, but for the Marigold one, instead of waiting until October 7th, if we have a contractor coming in before then, if they're willing to do it for a fraction
Well,
of the cost.
they're not coming in for October 7th.
They're doing
Oh,
phase
yeah.
2.
Yeah.
Sports turf?
They're
Well,
gonna
you're
start-
talking about before that, yeah, I get a bit from them for it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that makes.
And then you can save money.
Right, I mean, that's just, make that part of it.
Well, that's what we did the last time, when we wanted to tear up the old recycling center, because that was still all sitting there. And we got HDR, or whoever the contractor was, did it when they started the last phase.
Yeah.
And they just added it on.
That usually works out pretty good. No moves.
But I would say, for Forest Road, though, we need to put out a bid for that one ahead of time. Unless they would be willing to do a vote. That may be
I
asking.
doubt it. Okay.
Town green enhancements update. We had a meeting, my weeks were running together, was it last week or the week before? Plans for the town green, and I think they're still working on that. The company is gonna meet with the DDA for the sign. I put this on here tonight, I wanted to give an update on the time frame that we're talking about. So Butch, if you or Eric have a
At the,
timeline?
we hope at the next meeting, to have a full presentation for the mayor and council. What would that be, September the 8th?
Yep.
With finance numbers, budget numbers, and because I was on vacation, but I understand that should have been the final meeting, just the tweaking of the document. So
So we'll put
definitely,
that on our September 8th work session?
yes.
And I think the hope for that was after the tree lighting, after the tree's down, and then, sometime December, January, it would kick off.
Yeah, Butch, I will have the final drawing in that costume Tuesday of next week, and was thinking of sharing it with council at that point, so they would see it before the meeting. If there's any feedback or comments, I'd appreciate them, so we can have it cleaned up in a fashion that you're all ready to talk about it at the work session and then at the meeting. And the contractor is prepared to come to the regular meeting of mayor and council and make a presentation.
If we could have that during the work session so that we can have feedback, unless we can resolve everything by email before then, I think that would be more appropriate than the actual meeting. Future former Hobby Lobby Shopping Center, I put this on here just to start the discussion. I know I've had several complaints by citizens upset that Hobby Lobby has left, and what are we as a city gonna do with the vacant shopping center? I know it's not our responsibility, but I'd like for us to start discussing what maybe we can do to try to track something in there, or I know at one point we talked about a, I don't know, community detention pond scenario, but what we can do as a city, this is in a peak area, that's becoming an eyesore in the eyes of many citizens.
There may be, I finally got a call back from the leasing agents there. For, I guess, the Kmart replacement, we're getting an in-home, which is it's the old Garden Ridge, an updated Garden Ridge home supply for decorating facility. I mean, probably a lot like Hobby Lobby.
In Hobby Lobby or in Kmart? You said Kmart.
That would be Kmart.
Where's Kmart?
I think there's going to be a transition.
And when do we think that transition is gonna take place?
I didn't get a date. Did you get a date?
They're trying to submit a variance application.
So, but and is my understanding that the Hobby Lobby and the Kmart were two different leasing companies? Are they all one leasing company?
I talked to him about, I talked to one leasing company about that. Said that he has gotten some interest about the Hobby Lobby space. We have had some, what I would call positive movement at Fountain Square. Some potential there, and if there's some potential here, that would be good news. But you're right, the conversation needs to continue.
Well, at one point we thought the church was going into the old gym, but tonight it doesn't look like that's happening. So this, if the city, if we were gonna do anything to market or change that, this is our opportunity, because it looks like the whole thing is gonna be somewhat vacant. So I wanna put it out there so that everyone can start thinking about what we want to do with the future of Hobby Lobby. Maybe that's something for us to discuss in our retreat.
Probably, because it all goes right into the town center plan. I mean, we just need to follow the plan. Find the
Show
people to
any
get the
interest in
fans.
selling the current owners?
What's that?
They show any interest in selling?
No.
They'd rather have vacant storefronts than sell.
I think that's how they maximize their
Tax write-off?
value.
Anybody else have anything to comment about that tonight? Harbor Oaks daycare traffic concerns. Chief, do you know?
We've talked about this, we've talked about putting some plants along the right of way there. We've had a suggestion from Councilman Howard about maybe putting up some 2x6s and some chains. We're ready to do whatever. I think Butch has talked.
I talked to Gay today, for $130, we can put those 6x timbers out there at the edge of the right of way, which is at the end of the edge of the parking, and we take care of it. There'll be no more
Ding, ding. Let's do it.
Over. I have, Mayor, I've been out there, I've talked to them.
We're gonna do it.
I've
We're
got
gonna do it.
two different messages. I just don't get a response from, when I went out there, they said, what do you think we might be able to put down the parking stops? But nothing has transpired.
So last time this was on an agenda, we thought maybe if they sent out a letter or something like that, it would stop, but that.
Yeah, it's, so, I mean, this is the simplest, most non-maintenance way to do this.
And it's a city road, so we have no problem putting that.
What's that?
It's a city road, we have no problem with putting
Yeah,
it
it would be in the right way, the edge.
I talked to the property owner, and no one's actually talked to the owner. I guess it's just at the daycare center, they're the ones with the issue, I guess. But she said no one's ever contacted her about it. She said years
tried
and
to go
years
through
ago. Huh?
We tried to go through the business,
Daycare center,
the
yeah.
children's board.
Well, they're the ones that have the issue.
Yeah, they're the ones causing the problem.
The mom and dad own the business, the dog runs it. And she's been delivered 2 letters, I think, from the police department. And, then I guess the chief talked to her again, we just talked to her. I've had 2 more incidences since the last time we talked.
6 by 6 is
Probably
You
why-
don't need our approval to do that, you just do it, right?
The last time I was out there before I went on my trip, there were trees. You pulled out Harbor Oaks, so you couldn't see oncoming traffic very well. You know, southbound traffic on 124. Gay and Craig went out there to cut the bushes back. Couldn't get anybody to the door, and so it was on the right of way. They went ahead and cut. It's a lot safer out there when you pull out now, better line of sight. So.
Take a kid with you next time. They'll open
Review city job descriptions and salary ranges, you and Gabby were working on this, do you have them complete, or where do we stand?
If, that's probably something to discuss at the retreat. I know everybody got copies of Malik's report, I think, to review.
Yeah, after the last meeting, we got emailed to
Okay,
us.
okay. There are a few updates that we need to do and get all of them commented on and adopted or to a current date. So we'll bring that with us.
Let's predict. Well, have you spoken to Gordon? Is that definitely gonna be on the agenda? Should we put it on a work session and follow up?
He said he was gonna have conversations with the mayor and council.
Nomination of Brittany Marmol and Robert Knox to the Parks and Rec Advisory Board, which is letting council know. I plan on putting this on the next agenda. There is no quorum for the Parks and Rec Board to meet right now, so there is no recommendation of the Parks and Rec Board as far as who they want their new people to be.
That's suggested there are members of that committee, though, is there not?
Well, you didn't let me finish. I've spoken to Mr. Odom and to Adam, I don't know how to say Adam's last name. They have no objection to the 2 applicants. I have not spoken to Mr. Cole. I don't know. Lisa, if you could get in touch with Mr. Cole. Discussion action on vacant home located on Hampton Ridge. Mr. Powell.
This
On fees tonight.
is the next step in that nuisance action. Again,
Is that what I'm saying?
yeah, they're all set. Anybody wants to see what it looks like, I brought pictures that were increased in the nuisance action. But the work that needs to be did is in the sheet that you just received, and so what we need is authority to move forward.
Can you start the picture down this one? Yeah. Please.
It's rough. It appears to be bank owned, but
It'll be like that tomorrow then.
hiding.
This is something that,
Locked in the house.
we previously declared this a nuisance. I received some citizen complaints about this property. I had some conversations with Jason and the chief. Apparently, people are breaking into the home or attempting to break in. It looks like the bank is trying to stop them. It looks like they've gone up there and tried to put up some barriers, but it's a vacant property, and so people keep breaking into it, and it's not maintained. So the residents are asking that we take the next step.
Same procedure, if we bid it, we'd go out, attach a lien to the property. We've already got a lien on this piece of property. We did some work before. This one was actually remediated, at least partially.
When the door was wide open, we went out there, we tried to get them, I think they had put a new front door on. Sent a public works crew out there and cleaned it up one time, hoping that there would be some follow-up by the bank. There was not, obviously. And we just need to follow through. And we kept track of our time and effort, so we'll attach that to the link.
We can actually put this on the agenda for a vote, where
If we have your permission to bid it, we'll move forward with that and bring something back for you to approve.
So we're gonna go in, we're gonna have somebody come out and fix it,
All that stuff is listed on the bill for it.
okay? And then we're gonna put the lien against the house, so that when they sell it eventually.
Right. And there is, when you did these nuisance actions, we filed the late opinions at the very beginning of the process. So the lien dates back to that time period. So we're attached, whatever we do to remediate, it gets added to it, and then we do a final report, which has not been done in this case, where it actually goes to the tax commissioner's office for the report. It does point out that, these nuisance actions, when you really deal with them, there's a budgetary issue that goes with them too. I mean, it's a regular sort of expenditure, bidding can be a pretty expensive process, so.
what if the bank rents the property instead of selling the property? We're not able to recover the lien unless the title actually changes hands, right?
Yeah, but it will eventually get there, or we will, the county will pursue their taxes, so they can't avoid it. I mean, it gets there.
Other questions?
Before, I just one point, I know we have the next item on the agenda, is parliamentary update. Before we do that, I sent an email out Friday, it's going to take about 30 seconds. The URA had a meeting on Thursday afternoon. The gentleman from the ARC was there, and we had an opportunity for 2 grants, 80-20 match grants coming up that I'd like to have the city apply for. I'll let Eric explain a little bit more about it, ask him to verse himself on it. Reader's Digest version?
Yep, the Reader's Digest version. In a nutshell, it's what got you into the LCI in the first place. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but just because of what's funded and the way LCI grants are funded, they are just complex beings. But the first piece that he talked about was an LCI planning grant that would give us an opportunity in the 80-20 matching funds. The 20% is the city's side, that would allow the city to undertake kind of a revisitation or a keep moving forward on the master plan and do some other work, maybe to help pay for some things that the BDA is thinking about in relation to the Wisteria Square site as well. So the first part is just a planning grant. It has a maximum cap, I think, of about $175,000, of which if you applied for the full amount, then the city would pay 20% of that. The second piece I'll spend less time on because you're painfully aware of where it is. It's the construction piece, and we'll worry about that second. But the planning grant, I think, could serve the city very well at this point to help pay for some things that we'd like to move toward anyway, and give us a grant opportunity to look into that as well.
I also think there's an opportunity, although the DEA nor the URA can contract with ARC, asking the city to contract with. I do believe that one or both those organizations contribute to that 20% match that we have to see that to make if we accept the grants.
When's the deadline for the grant?
The papers haven't come out yet. The final application, they put out a beta application. The final application is due out the first week in September, and then that'll have all the final dates on it.
Final application is due out or is due
It's
to be
due out.
turned in?
The application
Gonna be out,
papers
okay.
and materials will come out that first week, and it will have the due dates and so forth.
And when it comes to funding, let me just give you an update. We're through our first month of 3% rental excise tax collections, something that we never could find out from the county how much they were getting. So we budgeted about $70,000, believing it would be more. Well, the first month, we got to 12,000, which would be 144 on an annual basis. And that's not, and that's not.
Yeah, but he's here.
That's not
I think it was 9.
anything from U-Haul also. We've argued with U-Haul because of the, rental vehicle versus cargo versus transportation, but they have turned it on. They've turned their collections on. So we may or may not win that one, but right now Mr. Powell would not put that word cargo in that ordinance, and so.
We paid $12,000 a month or
Yes.
$12,000 for the first 3 months?
The 1 month.
And that was without golf, correct?
Excuse me?
That was without you all.
That's correct. So, summertime is probably a little busier, rental time than winter, but
Just so the agenda and the minutes are clear, so the ARC grant would actually be item J, even though we've kind of taken it out of order, that would be an added item. Parliamentarian update, Councilman Neal.
Mr. Conway, this is a complex process. The Robert's Rules of Order book is 651 pages, and I thought Mr. Conway might update us on some of the things we've done and some of the things we should be doing.
Okay. Last week, I entered into some comments about folks who are part of the community and who address the council as concerning decorum. And Robert's Rules of Order does address decorum with people who aren't part of the governing body or part of the assembly. And it does require decorum. But of course, Mr. Powell, he had some comments that were significant, and so those are of course to be heeded. Today, if I could, I'd like to address the idea of decorum regarding discussion on the city council. What I'm going to say and the things I'm going to provide, this isn't unique to my work with Snellville. In other words, I have done a number of workshops, and matter of fact, I was in Atlanta Saturday doing a workshop, and they're just about all day in a particular meeting, and we talked about decorum. This is a basic and essential part of deliberations, the idea of decorum. And so it's something that every deliberating body needs to understand. I think, well, just let me continue. And it's going to sound basic, but like when we did the workshop, remember I started out basic, and we went from there, because I don't know how much everybody knows. And so we just start that way. And this doesn't, I don't mean this to be too elementary, but I think it'll be helpful if we do it this way. There's a distinction, in parliamentary terms, there's a distinction between the words debate and argue. It is proper to debate, it is right to debate. And let me give you a definition for debate in parliamentary terms. People with opposing views will enter into debate. We could put it this way, to debate is to speak against the other person's point of view. And it's even legitimate to speak strongly against the other person's point of view. As a matter of fact, that's valuable. In a deliberative assembly, when you have a number of people who are trying to make a decision, it's good to have different points of view. As a matter of fact, it's valuable. If everybody here in the city council and the mayor, if everyone agreed on everything, there would be no reason to meet or talk about anything. And so, like I said, this sounds elementary, but I think it's going to go to the point and help in the process. So it's right and proper to disagree with someone who has a different point of view and say so strongly if you desire. That's legitimate debate. It's right to speak to the point. It's right to speak to the issue. It is out of order to speak to the person against the person. It is out of order to make a snide remark, to question their motives, to get personal. In a deliberative assembly, it is out of order. Debate is productive, even if you strongly disagree with what somebody has said. To rebut, and a number of times perhaps, is actually very productive because that means all the information is getting out and then a vote can take place and a decision is made. Like I said, pardon me if this sounds elementary, but what we're tempted to do in debate, we feel strongly about our views, we feel strongly about our opinions, and we should, and that's a good thing. But when somebody disagrees with us in an effort to win the point, we're tempted to speak against the person. That is not allowed. It is out of order. When that takes place, and I've done it, we all do it, when that takes place, the natural response is to get personal back. That's the natural response. I don't like the color of your shoes, you have no business saying that, well, I think you dress funny, and that's what tends to happen. If somebody in debate, in a deliberative assembly, gets personal, the proper response is to call a point of order. If a council member, in this case, and let's just get specific for the mayor and the city council, if a council member calls a point of order regarding someone who has said something personal, the chair will make a ruling. That's her responsibility. That's the mayor's responsibility. She'll make a ruling. She'll say one of two things. She'll say the point is well taken and the statement is out of order. Or else she'll say, I don't see a problem with what the council member said, and so I'm going to allow it. Let's suppose a council member says something that's construed as out of order. And let's suppose, just for the sake of description, the mayor says, you're out of order. Your statement was personal and it's out of order. Again, the natural response is to argue about it. I wasn't out of order, I remember something you said, or maybe it's between council members. I wasn't out of order, it's something I remember something you said, and then it starts turning into an argument. What I want to provide for you is the process and the mechanism to deal with a statement that is personal. Because, again, it's out of order, it's not allowed. When somebody makes a personal statement, again, let's suppose the chair rules and says that statement is out of order, I'm not going to allow it. Instead of arguing, you're not allowed to, the only response that's allowed is an appeal. If someone disagrees with the mayor's ruling in our case, it is out of order to argue. You can't say, well, I don't agree, I don't like that. The proper response, I move to appeal. If there's no second, then the mayor's ruling stands. There has to be a second for an appeal to go into process. So if there's a second and there's an appeal, and this is important also, when it comes to decorum, now sometimes an appeal can be debated. When it comes to decorum, there is no debate. So let's walk through it again. A council member says something that maybe is personal. The mayor says, you're out of order. I move to appeal. Someone seconds it. The mayor, in any deliberative assembly, these are the rules. The mayor does have the right to say, this is why I'm holding to my position. But nobody else has a debate. There is no debate, not on decorum. After that, there's a vote. And the question on the table is, the question for the assembly will be, does the chair's ruling stand? And again, there's no debate. Does the chair's ruling stand? A majority that says it stands, and the mayor's position is held. If there's not a majority and it fails, then the mayor's position is overruled. It's that simple. But and if you would like, I can print this process out, and hand it out because it can be a little bit complicated. I mean, once you get used to it, it's fairly simple. But again, if no personal statements are allowed. Speak to the issue as much as you want, as strongly as you want. But don't make any snide remarks, or Robert's Rules of Order says you're not allowed to make any snide remarks or any personal comments that are negative. Somebody does, point of order. No debate, no arguing about it. And then the chair will rule. When the chair rules, if you don't like it, If someone doesn't like it, it's a motion and a second to appeal. And then a vote. And then a vote. So, there's something else, I don't know how much time I have, but there's a couple other things. And Mr. Emmanuel, if I go too long, do I have 3 minutes left? Y'all are so gracious. I've been taking up the last part of the meetings in the last 2 sessions, and I appreciate it. I was on the phone with Mr. Powell to double check on a few of these things, and this is a procedure that would be drawn from parliamentary procedure in Robert's Rules of Order, as combined with the fact that the mayor and city council has employed a parliamentarian to serve the council as a whole, the mayor and the council as a whole. This is essentially a committee meeting. The work session is essentially a committee meeting. And so the deliberations are a little freer. Last meeting, I spoke up and provided some advice. In the formal meeting, however, if someone has a question regarding parliamentary procedure, and according to Robert's Rules of Order, you can interrupt on this particular motion. You are allowed to interrupt when someone is speaking on this particular motion. You call for a parliamentary inquiry. If anyone on the council or the mayor, of course the mayor's in the chair, and so that would be fine, but she can speak as she's running the chair, but the point is if anybody on the council has a question about parliamentary procedure in the middle of debate or in the middle of discussion, it is legitimate according to Robert's Rules of Order, and the city code does not counter this. It doesn't speak against this. You can interrupt, you can say, I'd like a parliamentary inquiry, please, and you can speak that directly to the parliamentarian, and I'll respond. A couple more things quickly. I don't know that, let me put it this way. There is a chance that in a formal meeting, as I'm watching deliberations take place, as I'm watching the process, I would witness something where the mayor and city council is making a mistake. Not a minor mistake, but a mistake that could really affect the decision and cause problems later on down the road. In my judgment, it would probably be beneficial if I could speak to that immediately in the process. And so, again, in talking with Mr. Powell, trying to get his advice on some of these things, and as he and I discussed it, he recommended that we leave that, or that I would leave that up to you. You determine a process or what you're most comfortable with regarding how I might be able to get your attention in a formal meeting and bring something to your attention that you need to hear regarding procedure.
What do they do in soccer? They hold up little yellow flags or something?
Or a green one, or anything you want to do, that's fine.
Get a black one, you're absolutely.
Yes.
I mean, if we're doing something wrong, I mean, I don't.
Stand up, just stand up, and we'll know something's happening.
Well,
I certainly don't have a.
So the council and mayor is in agreement. If I see something that I need to call your attention, just stand up.
Well, I mean, I don't personally, just for me, I don't have a problem with that.
If I have to use the restroom, I'll give you a signal.
Better crawl out.
Yeah, that's it. I'll get on the floor.
We didn't go into quite as much detail, and your parliamentary procedure says that you follow Robert's rules unless there is a difference between it and the procedures adopted by council. The one in the description that you just got of an appeal is identical to your code with one exception, and I just wanted y'all to know that the chairman this is after the appeal, the chairman has the opportunity to explain the ruling that has been challenged, and then says the city council may then debate the appeal. And so that's the only variation that I see.
So even regarding decorum?
Yeah, it's an incidental motion regarding the appeal of a decision that the mayor has made appeal. It's just, and it's talking about appeals from not just decorum, but everything.
Well, sure.
It goes through that exact process with the exception of it does give a debate in that procedure, which is 2-89.
It was certainly overruled. In Robert's Rules of Order, there are 4 things that you can't debate and appeal on.
Right.
but that certainly overrules Robert's Rules of Order, so thank you for that. There is one more point quickly, and then I'm done. And if everybody is okay, if I see something, then I'll just stand and you take it from there. There may be a discrepancy between what the city code describes as establishing a formal agenda and what tradition has become. So you may want to take a look at that. Won't go into detail tonight, but it might be something to take a look at. And maybe we can look at it again next week, next meeting. Pardon me.
Thank you for your input. We will